Stay this way a little bit. Start coming this way just a little. Straighten it out. Straighten the wheel. There you go. Go this way. All right, working on this 1975 Prevost La Mirage XL. It's 40 foot, but it's been extended 2 feet to upgrade from a 71 series to a Series 60. We're gonna get into it here. We got a whole bunch of things on our list, and we're gonna jack the front. Is the wheel up off the ground yet or no? Can we go ahead and do that? Tyler, you're gonna go grab a big pry bar. How much on the steering wheel? Where's your flashlight? There's something when it goes up and down on the wheel. Can you do that for me?
Greg?
Yep. You feel it?
Just a little bit.
I can hear
Got
it.
a little bit of vertical play in the kingpin.
Okay, like a shim or something. But now have him wiggle it back and forth and watch the tie rod in.
That's moving the other wheel with it. Drag loop looks good.
Okay. Had a little torque to it. Some of these have just buzzed right off like no.
And that may have been part of the issue, I'm not sure.
That's messed up with the stud.
Oh, it's missing the whole stud.
Oh yeah, that shock is not doing any good.
My specialty fix.
Well, the hose there from rubbing, that's no big deal. But yeah, that can get shortened, I think, is the problem there.
It's all temporary.
So there's a roadside repair right there. You guys see that leveling arm focus? Come on. There we go. It's at a really bad downhill angle. And it's over-centered before, and this thing has dropped and hit the deck of the interstate at speed. So I was doing some looking up here, trying to figure out exactly what happened, and I see a cut weld right there. Go over here, you see about the same thing going on. So what happened is they've actually raised the floor of this. So that used to be, the bottom of that weld was the bottom of this bar, and that right there is where it tied into the suspension plate. So they've dropped the link right here for the bar that centers the axle side to side, but they never did anything to drop that leveling valve. So we need to take that leveling valve off and bring it down and put it back in line to set our ride height back. Because right now, with it over-centered like that, there's not really a good way to get around this unless we make a longer arm for it, which is an option too.
Well, here's another problem, Tyler, I'm gonna jump in. I think the problem with the shocks is the shocks are maxing out because they've raised the top mount for the shocks. It needs a longer shock on it now.
Yeah, and that's
And
probably
that's
breaking.
probably why those shocks are coming apart, and he's having the bolts keep falling on him. Every time he hits a bump, the shock is hitting its maximum stretch, and it's a limit for it.
Yeah, it's probably breaking the studs out of it.
Yeah.
They're probably not losing the nuts, it's just snapping the stud.
That makes sense.
Because they did not move the lower mounts.
Because he's had 5 shock problems already on this, and just
5 of them I noticed that I'm aware of.
That's all fixable though.
So this shock came off and went through the airbag Where were you at? What state?
This was in Lexington, Kentucky.
Lexington, Kentucky.
But I think it's been that way longer.
Yeah, this is just another shock come off, and I'm guessing because they raised. They didn't really do the roof raise. They did the raise down below.
I've got pictures of this thing cut in half.
Yeah. And then the shock mount, the top shock mount got stretched up. The lower shock mount stayed in the same place, and the shocks just aren't long enough to cover to the new distance that they need to do, and that they were limiting them, and the shocks were taking the abuse. Just back and forth the tiniest amount.
Oh God. See that?
Yeah. Looks like it's coming apart on the threads. Move your flashlight because you're blinding the camera. I can't see it on the camera. Take your flashlight down so it's just ambient light.
There's a chunk worn off there.
Keep doing that. Zoom in on that with this. Keep this.
Ready?
Yeah. No, grab it and move it up and down again with your hand the way we did it. So there's all kinds of play going on.
It's all loose.
Even that U-joint there is bad.
Oh yeah. It's...
So I noticed the little rust streaks on there, and I said, careful that lug nut when you take it off, it's probably bad, and it came right off with no resistance, and you can see the threads hanging on there. So definitely the stud's bad. Those little rust streaks like that are usually a sure tell sign that something's going on. Not always, but usually.
Yeah.
So we got a ooey gooey leaky wheel seal here, which means the brakes are going to be bad too, but let's flip this tire on, Hunter. He just had these tires put on, and they didn't balance them. But they left 2 balance weights on there, and he thought he felt a really bad vibration. And I'm guessing that this tire is just so far out of balance that didn't help things out either. But yeah, we'll see what else we got here. Okay, Tyler, can move this. Spin it.
Yeah, it ain't going to.
Holy cow.
That's full of gear oil though.
Yeah, I can see the gear oil in there. Alright. If we back off the slack adjuster, we'll try to get that.
All inside the diff. So, Dad, reach in there and hold the pinion.
Okay.
Which this should be a neutral. You should be able to turn that if I hold the wheel. And I'll hold tension against you. See if you
couldn't turn it a minute ago.
Wow. Is that all pinion? Yes.
Because he's used to big trucks.
Differential plug. There's definitely some big chunks of metal on it. It's these are over torqued. And use the torque multiplier on them. We only got a couple of them off with our gun. Oh boy. It's not making noise, but it must be turning it.
Oh yeah, it is.
9 on each wheel.
Yeah. Well, this one, you're lucky. 8 of them. Yeah. Usually they make a popping noise and a creaking.
Yeah, these are lug nuts.
Not as tight or not.
2.5 inches ride height.
It's coming down. It's come down a little bit. Let's let it go back up.
It's amazing. Well, you can give it the camera, right?
So here you see they cut the upper half of the bus off, and then they raised it. What did you say? 8 inches?
8 inches.
And then put it back together. Man, that is a lot of work.
Yep. Well, it completely de-skinned it. And that's when they had the 8 inches added to it. Yeah, because this is all this section in here, that bottom section,
Yeah.
that's all the new stuff.
Coming out of there. See the gray? Feel anything weird in it? Pull it back and forth at all? Okay. Hope I'm just making another bit. I don't think this one's gonna be so pretty.
Because of the
Amount of metal coming out of there. Like a silver river.
Don't even need to wipe that to see that it's scored.
And your nail catching them all.
The towel's catching it.
Oh. Yeah.
And there's no pitting in it. But that catches.
Yeah, it looks. The race is equally as dull. Let's see what the inner one looks like. I think it's off now, right? What was the 3/4 inch wrench over there for?
The fill plug. So you want it this side down, right?
Yeah, but drain the oil out of it first. What you need? More wood?
Room.
Thought I got that on video. You alright? Look at all that metal. So this leveling valve on this side up here is raising it too high. This airbag is actually way up on the pedestal and it's ballooned out. It's actually maxing out the shock height, so the shock is holding it together, and then the airbag is expanding even more than that. So we're gonna get in here and work on this leveling valve height on this side and see what we can come up with. We gotta remove this inner wheel well here, and then we'll be there. So this leveling valve arm, the way they have it mounted in there, it's not horizontal, it's almost a vertical, just slightly. If it's at a clock position, you can't see the angle it's at, but let's say it's at 8 o'clock. and that's adjusting the up and down. And it's just not working well, and the ride height's riding too high. They've got it used to be mounted sideways in there, and when they did the lift on it, it's just not right. So we're gonna go in there and get the leveling valve mounted correctly. We're gonna make a new arm. We're gonna get the ride height set. It's just riding too high. These airbags are way up tall, and the shock is at its full extension. So it's riding down the road at 24 inches stretched on the shock. So there's no movement on the shock to go up, only down. It can only compress, and then when it comes back, it's banging on the bolts hard, and that's why he's having problems with bolts. This one's missing when it pulled in. The bolt wasn't on there. He had another one that broke off. Another one in the back, I touched it and the nut fell off. It was ready to fall off. So front and back, we're having problems with the shocks, but we're getting it adjusted here. And we'll have this taken care of soon. So we're gonna new leveling valve, get the ride height adjusted, get the shocks for the riding in the middle instead of this high off the ground. I mean, look how that thing is all the way at the top. It's not supposed to ride that high. But we measured the body, it's 16 inches off the ground, which is too high as well. Okay, let's start bringing it down.
I don't know if that's down or up. So.
Yeah, it's coming down.
Okay, so I'm pulling down on the...
We're coming down. Yeah, we're coming down.
Yeah, but I'm pulling down on the...
Well, that's because there's no air in the tanks, and it's back feeding probably. Okay, let's hold it there. And if you let go of it, it stays there.
Yeah, I need to put it back on the post.
I can't get the puller apart because the end of it has mushroomed out. And where's the name brand on it? So it's Matco. So we can get it warranty, but we're gonna have to grind it now so we can actually use it, and I wanted evidence of it before I messed it up more. This is the race. Let's see how badly it's worn. Well, the inside of this bus is very beautiful, and it's nice and tall since they did the roof raise in here, since it's 8 inches taller now. But yeah, they did a really nice job on the conversion. We'll do a tour of it later, but it's very, very nice. Okay, we got the new leveling valve mounted up in there. We gotta change some of that wiring, the air line just a little bit, the plumbing, so it's not in the way of the arm. But now it's mounted in there straight, and we're building a new bracket to go down on the bottom there. So we're gonna put that in there in just a little bit. So with this thing mounted in there at the angle it was, this was level at this kind of angle. And that would cause it to deflate, that would cause it to inflate. It would hit some bumps every once in a while, and this would cam over and go to that side, and then now it's 100% deflate no matter what you do, and the bus just goes all the way down. That's what was happening to him, because this is supposed to be mounted 90 degrees sideways in there. And when you go up and down, you know, it adds air, subtracts air, like that. But because they mounted it like that, it would cam over and go on this side and on that side. So it was very, very bad what was happening. It was just a totally dumb way of mounting this valve. So they raised the bus 8 inches, but they did all of that from here up. But the problem is I guess they didn't want the wheel wells inside the bus, so they lowered all that stuff down. Now that changes some serious engineering on the bus side of it, and they should have not done that. They should have just left, stayed with the wheel wells in there and been fine with it. But because they did that, they got so many issues. This guy spent years, 5 years I think it was, doing the conversion on this bus to get the roof raised on it. And then he only ended up driving it a few hundred miles because he didn't like the way that it handled, which makes perfect sense now that we've seen it. There's steering issues, which are bad. The suspension is horrible. We have a guy from a machine shop who came in and is making new mounts for these shocks that are up here because the mounts are just too high, and the shocks are riding it maxed out. We've had several of them that were loose. I think there's 4 of them that are loose right now on the bus. One of them is missing, disconnected. Several of them are missing the bolts. It's just in really bad shape. He lost several of them, loosened up on the way, and then you saw that other one that totally came off. So the shocks were riding with it all the way inflated up against the shock. The shock completely stretched out. It can only compress, but it could never expand, and it was just banging on the bolts the whole time. That's horrible on the shocks. We've ordered all new shocks. We're replacing these. We don't want to trust them because they've been abused so badly. But we're getting the ride heights adjusted, everything fixed, and it should handle and just be such a dream to drive when he leaves here.
His tools, check the air and all those duels. It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? Well, he's got a long hard ride in old Lenny the Silver Sides. Get that bus grease monkey on the road. Well, he's got that hammer down and that 47 Hound. It's that bus grease monkey on the road. He travels all around and he's coming to your town. Get that bus grease monkey down the road. See that 4104 with the propped up engine door. Watch that bus grease monkey do his thing. 30 years behind that barn, cause it don't run worth a darn. Watch that bus grease monkey make it sing. He knows them Detroits, there's no doubt, upside down and inside out. It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? Saving buses far and wide in that old blue Silver Sides. It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? Now he's moved his family to the hills of Tennessee. Watch that bus grease monkey make his home, bringing buses back to life with the help of his dear wife. Watch that bus grease monkey get it done. Well, he travels town to town working on them old greyhounds. It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? Saving buses far and wide in old Lenny the Silver Sides. It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know? It's that bus grease monkey, don't you know?